Chris Henry's been committed since July of 2023. And again, being an out of state guy, this is always the fear, is hanging on to these guys for what would have to be 2.5 years to get to the finish line, December of 2025. The 5-star out of Santa Ana, but he's basically saying, I'm done with the speculation, people talking, I am not looking at anywhere else.
Well, it is interesting, and it is a great phenomenon, certainly, and everybody knows his story. His dad was Chris Henry, who played for the Cincinnati Bengals, and he was growing up in Cincinnati. And he's got some of his dad's former teammates like Pac-Man Jones and some other people kind of in his life, helping him, mentoring him. I don't know necessarily raising him, but mentoring him and trying to help him with his football career. And, you think Pac-Man Jones and you just wonder, well, is he a good influence or a bad influence? But in this case, it feels like he's been a pretty good influence on Chris so far. And I think Pac-Man is won over to the Ohio State side, no doubt. I think he understands in the pantheon of football what Ohio State means and what Brian Hartline can do for a wide receiver. So I think that everything looks good for Ohio State. And obviously, he's from Cincinnati originally. So, this is home for him, this part of the country. Went to California to play, at a good prep school and, continue his development. I know he got hurt at the end of this past season and is out. And that may explain why some of the networks have dropped his ranking a little bit, because he's not out there doing the T-shirt and shorts circuit this offseason. But make no mistake, he's still a very good player. He just got to get healthy again. So, let's look at it. Again, the earliest he would sign would be December, I guess. So I guess, that's another 8 months. My goodness. Boy, this thing moves at a glacier pace, doesn't it? But he was committed as a sophomore or coming out of his freshman year, whatever it was, and saw what he wanted to see and got what he wanted to get from Ohio State. And certainly they're telling him, you can be the next Jeremiah Smith, certainly. So, that's got to be pretty exciting for him.
I heard they offered him a shoe deal.
Well, they may have to offer him a shoe company, given the fact the way these NIL deals are escalating, kind of like the federal debt is, the national debt is, you need a calculator to figure out how these NIL deals are going exponentially upward every 20 seconds. So
I will say, if he does end up decommitting and people have said, like you said, you're going to shut it down. He's like, well, that was April 1st when I said that. So, you should never take that to heart. But I mean, he committed. Nothing has changed on why he decided on Ohio State, and things have only been amplified by seeing the successes that continue from Marvin Harrison, just the recent stuff, not even the distant past of Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and Jackson Smith, just the recent history. There's no reason for Chris Henry to look elsewhere. And I think, Steve, were you there when he announced his commitment on the that July Friday at one of the last Friday Night Lights? It wasn't even Friday Night Lights. It was like just a Friday showcase in the summer.
No, I don't think I was there for that.
And so we were all hanging out at the WAC in the lobby, outside the lobby, waiting for players to come out and talk to them. And Chris Henry comes out and Brian Hartline comes out and Pac-Man Jones comes out, and they all kind of have these grins on. And Pac-Man's like, well, do you want to tell him? And we're all like, tell us what? Did you commit? He's like, yeah, I committed. And so, that was, as you said, 2023 or whatever. That was a long time ago. And
well, I hope you all applauded for the poor kid. I hope you all give me, yes, one of those. Sometimes you got to break kayfabe, and you gotta make the moment mean something.
I mean, hey, Brian Hartline was doing enough cheering for everybody, so that was one that they definitely wanted. And so I asked. So Ohio State got a commitment from a 5-star safety a couple days ago, Blaine Bradford, and I asked safeties coach Matt Guerrieri, so how do you keep an out-of-state commit locked in for the next 8 months? And he's like, it's all about relationships, and it's the relationships that you build, and then you continue on And this has been a relationship that has been building for years and just growing. So there's no reason. People that follow this will tell you, as long as Brian Hartline is at Ohio State, Chris Henry will be at Ohio State.